Christine, you can't love cicadas too.
They're called semi, but not.
They're called semi?
In Japan, that's what they call
Oh, okay. Japanese is semi, okay.
Yep.
Okay, so apparently I need to go discover love of cicadas in order to fit in here. Okay. I like crickets. Crickets are good. This is how we're opening. You love cicadas too? What? Crickets are good. Hi, I'm Nathan Young. We're gonna try that one again.
Hello, I'm Riley Jeffs, and I am a part of the writing team.
And I'm Nathan Young. I'm the other part of the writing team.
I'm Olivia OCKEY, and I play HOLLIS SABERHAGEN.
My name is Orion Howard, and I play Anna.
My name is Eric Ridding.
Hey, I'm Else Buckley. I play the captain of the ship in the show that we did.
We're just excited to be here.
Yes, we are.
So I actually got involved through Nathan. We did a couple of voiceover projects specifically. It was a computer game that he was voice directing, and also a short film that he did the sound on. And when I saw that he was doing an audition that I really, really wanted to be involved with.
Involved because I just saw a lot of casting calls on Facebook, and I happen to know Nathan Young. I've known him since high school, and we've been really good friends, and so he also reached out to me and sent me the casting call, and I just sent him a recording, and here we are. I don't know, I'd done work with Nathan before, so I had an idea of the kind of emotional trauma he likes to cause with his stories. So I was excited. I didn't know what was gonna happen. I knew I was probably gonna get really into it, which was just fun. I love trauma. I love emotional trauma.
I've known Nathan for a couple of years now. We've worked on a couple of small film projects together. He's one of my favorite people to work with, honestly. He told me that he was doing this podcast. I thought, oh yeah, I'll audition for that. Sounds cool. And then for like the first episode, he was like, sorry, we don't need you. And then an episode later, he's like, hey, can you be the captain? I was like, yes, please.
I was reached out to about just, voicing a character for, it was episode 3. Probably just for the one episode, maybe there'd be some reoccurrence. I hope there'd be some reoccurrence, but I said yes.
I know Nathan from playing Dungeons and Dragons. I, at the time, had started doing voiceover just here in the area, and I let him know, hey, just starting out, I'm looking for projects that I can do. Here are my demos. And he's like, hey, we're doing this sci-fi thing. He sent me the link. I auditioned. Him and everybody else who was on the panel was like, you're a shoo-in for Anna. And I was like, great, I will be a computer. My first thoughts were, yes, that's actually the part that I wanted. So it worked out. That was, of all the auditions, I had put the most thought into how I would read for Anna. I was tickled that I got it.
Nathan and I have known each other for a long time. We started in the film program. Yeah, we've just worked together on several projects, took some screenwriting classes together. We go at scripts differently, but in very complementary ways.
I am the structuralist of this. I say, okay, here's how these pieces kind of have to come together. Then I send it off to Riley, and then he makes it not sound like garbage.
I love doing funny little science fiction projects especially with Nathan Young, because I never really know what's gonna happen with those. It's never written out all the way.
When we started the project, I said, we're gonna try making an audience interactive podcast.
Well, I was really excited. I was also intrigued to know what it was gonna look like. I was a little nervous because there's so much out of your control when you do something like that, but also excited because I could make a huge mess and then let the audience solve it.
Someone else gets to clean it up. Always do interactive. Always do interactive.
I was like, you decide what happens here. But when I first heard it, I was really intrigued. It took me a little while to process what it was gonna look like. I think you explained it for probably 10 minutes. And then I was like, okay, I think I understand.
I felt confident when we started, but I don't think I even really knew what it needed to look like in reality. Oh, shoot! Gosh, heck! Okay, please send us money so we can get a light that works through our entire recording session. Thanks. Or maybe just a charging cord. And I think it was when we hit episode 3 that while I was editing it afterwards, I said, no, this is not working. And it was just progressively as we went through it all, I'm like, this episode is dragging. I can't, even editing it, I'm like, I don't want to listen to this. And I have to sit with it for another 6 hours trying to make it sound okay. So it was that moment when I think I sent you a message saying like, we got to change something.
Yeah.
For episode 4, we got to do something different. And that's about when we pulled in Elwood. Or when we said, well, let's make Elwood and the captain both a little bit more prominent.
Episode 4 was when all the crap hit the fan. That was the episode that was really fun to write because we just created a huge mess and we're like, okay, what do you want to do?
Yeah. And I think the decision was we said things have to be more in the moment. The most exciting parts of the first couple of episodes are when Worthing's in the spacesuit.
And going out.
Doing the thing. Or like when it's actively developing as opposed to, hey folks, here's yesterday's news.
Yeah.
And so when we said no, let's put more of a focus on things happening in real time. Admittedly, a lot of our framework of, oh, these are all recording messages, so we had to step away from that a little bit. But I think the last half of the whole season is a lot stronger because of it.
Oh, yeah.
When we did that first meeting over Zoom, there was just something so thought-provoking about the world that was being set up and the idea that cryosleep could be used in so many different ways and that bad things can happen. Nathan was talking about that there was an idea that they presented that made them all think, specifically him, for 20 minutes and just feel very sad for the fates of these people. And then he said, oh, dang it, now we have to do this. And as soon as he explained the idea of just the stakes and everything with cryosleep and who would be able to go back to sleep, it stuck with me just as long as it did for him, I'm sure.
So much of what it wound up being was shaped in the process. As that first episode came together, we made the decision, because we're having people interact with it, we want to make that as seamless as possible. Let's try to keep everything as if the audience were really there. How would they really hear about these things? And so we said, let's make all of it like these recordings. Found footage, like Blair Witch Project in space with cryogenic drama. We never planned at first of having anyone other really than SABERHAGEN and Worthing being our two characters.
We never planned having, like, we thought maybe a third character in way late episode, but.
With the episode where the captain is introduced, it was mostly just like these two monologues of kind of sending warning shots to the mutineers. And yeah, Nathan said with this one, it's you know, struggling to keep your cool, just being diplomatic and trying to get your message across. And then with the second one, after they do something stupid, and Nathan said, with this one, you're just like a demon with a grin, just very cool but ready to tear some people apart. And that was really the introduction, and after that I just kind of took that energy and rolled with it. So
it's like the first thing he says is like hell.
That's it.
And
That's the one.
just saying, no, you dense not taking over my ship.
Right.
Yeah, I remember reading that for the first time. I was like, oh yes, thank you, Nathan, for giving me this gift. Yeah, it was a good time.
Most of my experience in acting came from theater, so I grew up listening to musicals and doing musicals a lot. And one of the big ones, of course, that I loved was Les Mis. I really enjoyed playing someone who was kind of similar to those like rebel college students, and I think I can definitely relate to his idealism and like how he aspires to be a hero. I think there's a bit of that in all of us, and I guess I would consider myself in some ways a bit more of an idealistic person than a doer. I was a doer.
I had a friend who started listening who was like, you are going to be the villain because you are the robot, and every sci-fi thing out there, the robot always is the thing. There's Hal. I'm like, okay, I don't think so, but sure. Well, you keep saying that.
I ended up relating with SABERHAGEN a lot more than I thought, because I found her very stuck in the middle all the time. It was very much these two different sides against each other. It was very extreme on both sides. And I feel like that in my real life too. I get stuck in these situations where one group of people or one person's thinking so much this way and the other's thinking this way, and I can see the good and bad of both. And it's so stressful. And I think we've all gone through that. I think it's really stressful for all of us to feel like we're in the middle here and we say, I don't want to pick a side. I just want everyone to be happy and get along.
It's very interesting to try and think of what would robotic trauma be like. Because we've just gone through this super traumatic thing where 2,000-3,000 people have died from this wormhole incident, right? And being able to be part of, like, integrated with the whole ship. And I know that I'm a computer program that's trying to simulate human behavior. What would that kind of trauma be like for a robot that's trying to pretend that everything's okay? For the most part, it was just kind of like this underlying, like, at sometimes it's overly cheerful or maybe should be more cheerful. But as the series went on, because it was simulating a long period of time, I wanted Anna to then sound more normal, especially near the very end when 70 plus years had gone by there in episode 8. I wanted Anna to sound like that they had kind of figured things out in their situation and was like, happy juice day.
At first with SABERHAGEN, SABERHAGEN went a very different direction than I thought she was gonna go. Because initially, when I read for her and when I was auditioning and reading the side for her character, I had a very different image in my head of kind of this goofy, lackadaisical, whatever character. And then it turned into this like very, very sweet, emotionally connected, very empathetic peace lover person that just like was just so sweet and just so wanting to just do the right thing so bad. And it was kind of fun to watch her character evolve over the episodes, because listening to the first episode, you're kind of like, okay, like she's kind of bubbly and a little quirky. By the last episode, you're like, oh, she went through something here, you know? She's very different, which is cool.
And the audience has been absolutely phenomenal. I thought that there would be a whole lot more just kind of internet lurkers on the Discord who just like, I'm just here to see what other people do. But the amount of participation was breathtaking. Blew my mind.
I like to be a fly on the wall on Discord and read what everyone's saying, and it was very interesting to me the way people communicated with each other and communicated their ideas and stuff. And I just thought, wow, like you don't see people trying so hard to get along and come to a consensus like that. They easily could have become very argumentative, I think, and kind of mean. But it was just so much about like, oh, let's just find ideas, let's work together. I like that idea, let's use it. And I don't know, it just made me really happy to see a bunch of people connecting over this fictional story. And usually I kind of had an idea when I was reading the script of, okay, like I think this will probably be the direction we'll go, or like I know I would choose this, so I think it's gonna go this way. And then I was really surprised, I think it was just right after episode 2, I was really surprised when people decided not to just come out up front and tell everyone about the cryo juice. That was the moment where I went, oh, this is gonna have a huge impact. This is gonna be very different than... A little part of me thought, I told you so when the mutineers happened. I kind of went, would we have had this problem? I don't know.
When we started out, I thought, oh, this show is going to go some weird directions. It is going to hit some dramatic highs, but I have no idea what. And it did. It really, really did.
The most surprising reaction from the audience was how they responded to the mutiny of sorts. I anticipated that there would be more support for them, and it was much more a support for the authoritarian figure than I had thought. And so that was really surprising to me.
I think that's because Elwood took these drastic actions. And everyone's like, well, you crossed a line, bud.
Yeah.
And so any sympathy that his ideological cause may have garnered was gone. But still, I think we were not anticipating how quickly that, like, yeah, freedom, revolution, democracy, like, attitude would be then passed over. And it was in response to how very strongly consensus came down against Elwood. While people were like, yeah, that's a point, but we're going to back the captain still. That Eric, and working with Elwood's actor, we said, no, Elwood's doubling down. Elwood was never supposed to be, at least when we originally wrote him, never supposed to be this Viva la Revolution character. He was raising this concern and just kind of the figurehead of it because Worthing still wasn't a decisive enough of a person by that point to have taken the lead himself.
I was not expecting Worthing to get so involved in the rebellion, but it was a fun place to try and find out how he would react to that sort of situation, him being the way that he is. And finding that just naturally, both reading the script and just being behind the microphone, it was a ton of fun.
He needed someone to shepherd him along, so we said, no, here's someone who can be the one to start this conversation. And then we said, and he'll disappear back into the rest of the ship. But nah, he had to really double down.
I definitely, respect his desire to help those who felt unheard, and to resist what he felt like was a tyrannical oppression. In person, if I were there, I'd be a lot more quiet, and I don't think I would be the leader he was.
Maybe I'm prejudiced in my character's direction, but from the beginning, I had kind of a similar response to the captain as many people did, which was, okay, not a fan of this one. But when looking at Elwood, I kind of had that vibe with the audience of, okay, yeah, this guy might be standing for something important, but he doesn't know what he's doing. Like, revolutions, I'm usually gonna be in full support of because positions of power will automatically attract people wanting to exploit that power. But with Elwood, it seemed like he had no real fix to the situation of, okay, we're going to hand these decisions over to the people, but is everything just going to be a democratic vote at that point? That requires organization, and people who lead revolutions need to be good at organizing, otherwise it's gonna fail.
We continued to the second episode, and I found out the direction this was going with, like, a sort of a mutineering faction on the ship, and I knew the direction the story was going. I knew there was audience interaction. Part of me hoped, I guess, just because, you're kind of partial to the character you play, part of me hoped that Elwood's movement would be popular enough and, like, have enough idealism that people would agree with and that he would succeed. But I don't know, I think part of me also, just from, like, listening to how other characters like HOLLIS, SABERHAGEN, who I knew was a popular character, and listening to how she reacted to Elwood and how she wasn't a fan, I kind of thought that maybe the audience would not side with Elwood. So I wasn't surprised when his movement failed.
Because the audience came down very firmly with the captain because they did not like Elwood's actions, that we had that next episode be, okay, and here's how the captain is really not handling this well. Or at least, like, really escalating things here. Did it need to break out into violence? As the audience pointed out many times, no. But the captain was so unrelenting that they drove it there. And so we said, okay, folks, if you really say, yeah, let's support the captain here, then let's do it. Are we going to really back this up? And it was really interesting to see then where people were like, well, I guess we're going to have to take matters into our own hands, build a human wall. And this may just be hearsay. I think that may have been a joke of, like, I'm going to throw out something ridiculous here. Because let's be honest here, let's hold hands and go surround the spook system and sing Kumbaya and pass around warm grandma cookies. Yeah, people are shooting guns at each other. Like, what kind of response is that? That's so out there and idealistic. But at the same time, that's what garnered the most reactions. That discussion, if I remember correctly, there was lots of like, oh, we don't know, it's kind of all over the place, but there were 5, 6, 7 people who were like, I'll be there too if I have to. I'll be there too if I have to. We said, okay, so what can SABERHAGEN add to this to make that actually feasible? And it's, if we have the crowd juice, if we're making this speech, and if we're ready to pressure everyone with our presence, instead of just good vibes and happiness, it became legitimately a form of peaceful protest that is going to be made effective because people are willing to put themselves at risk for it.
And I think it was really cool.
It was really cool. It was really cool.
A lot of the character development was shaped by the audience, just in the way some of those big decisions do affect everyone individually. You know, if you say, I side with the captain, we're not gonna have this mutiny happen, that's gonna affect your entire outlook on what your mission is, I guess. And for SABERHAGEN, that was really important to her of, you know, my mission is to get to Hypatia and to get this colony settled and everything. And if we had sided with the mutineers, that might have gone differently. It might have become more about, this is what life means. And I don't know, it might have been a very different SABERHAGEN from that point on. I feel like she'd be like really bad and probably like get kind of edgy. It'd be pretty cool.
I really liked playing Worthing because he has a couple of similarities to who I am. And I love the way that he is thrown into this situation, and even though he's not super confident, he's still able to, over the course of 8 episodes, really come into his own, but maintain that charm and likability that he had at the first part where he was just trying to figure everything out.
Viewer Poa's question to us, why is Worthing such a whiny bitch?
But Worthing did not turn out how we had anticipated. Originally he was there kind of as a comedic relief in this intense situation, and we had an arc for him to like vaguely gain a backbone and stand up for himself.
I think, yeah, originally we talked about like, no, Worthing's gonna get his crap together. Worthing's gonna like kind of have to step up and be a leader and counterbalance out SABERHAGEN. Because I think originally as well, we said, no, SABERHAGEN's gonna start out strong in leadership, and this character is going to degrade as time goes on. The stress and the conflicts and these challenges are gonna wear on her until she is almost non-functional, and Worthing has conversely had to learn and grow and find ways to help take charge. Which, yeah, that changed real fast.
I think it changed because, well, I didn't anticipate this mutinous conflict to get as intense as it did.
Yeah.
And of all of our main characters, we felt like Worthing would be the most sympathetic. And
we needed to have some sort of in
yeah,
this new direction.
And in a way, it was his character like making a stand of sorts.
He grew up, but not in the way that we thought he would.
Yeah.
Instead, he was Marius from Les Mis.
Yeah.
A little bit.
People have a lot of comments. Like, friends of mine that have listened like don't like Worthing at all.
Man.
But like the performance was fantastic.
Oh, and that's the thing.
So
Chris
fantastic.
did such a good job.
He was,
we said,
I loved
he's
listening to
selling
his
this.
audition tapes.
He
Yeah.
was such a he made Worthing feel like this cheerful, kind of buffoonish character that just did not fit in with the severity of the situation that he created. And I think that's why everyone's like, oh my gosh. Because here he is, just bebopping his way through.
I can completely understand where they're coming from, because if someone was on the ship and they were in that situation and all they were worried about was meat and potatoes, I would be a little bit angry too. However, that weakness was what really made him real for me, because there are so many projects and so many forms of media that portray their main characters or their characters as just these extremely strong people. And there are people like that everywhere, but there are also weaknesses.
And I think because there was that strong reaction to Worthing, we said, okay, we can make him more of a thing here.
Yeah.
And conversely, everyone really loved SABERHAGEN.
They did.
And not that we like said, oh, they love this character, so let's make them even cooler, but the way and the decisions that they were having her make over and over again were like, you need to be an intermediary, or you need to try to advocate for some third option. No one ever let her pass the buck to just defer to the captain or to just do something else. The consensus was always, no, there's some other option, which honestly I think was really great. But that's a lot to put on one person. And so he said, well, it's not an interesting story then if our kind of point of view character that the audience has selected to say, no, we're here with SABERHAGEN, then totally falls apart and the audience is left being like, well, how do we engage with any of the rest of this story? Because SABERHAGEN's in a puddle on the floor. But also we kind of got to the same endpoints. I didn't even realize until after we were done recording of, wait a second, no, SABERHAGEN has caved into this pressure and Worthing has learned something and grown up. Interestingly though, I will throw out that that was based, those decisions about really how these characters are responding was based on conversations that I had all the time with the actors. They had very large says. I said, okay, you've inhabited this character now for 6 episodes, for 4 episodes. How do you think they're actually responding to this? How do you think they're doing it? And that's where Olivia was the one who said very strongly, no, SABERHAGEN's not having a happy ending. She is so done. She is so tired. And I said, yes, that's yes! Ah!
She was.
We did.
I'd be tired.
Oh yeah.
I love her moment in episode 7 when she just takes it all, solves it. She has that like diplomatic, but she diplomatically burns the captain. I just love that.
I really, really wanted SABERHAGEN to have a better ending than what she got. I really, really wanted it, but it felt right the way it did, and I was kind of like, in the situation that's happened, in the way that I've kind of found her to be, this is the only way that this could have ended up. And I got a little choked up while I was recording, just because I was thinking, oh man, she went, I don't know, this is just not at all what I thought was gonna happen. This is not what she thought was gonna happen, and it was just very sad.
The emotional trauma, thank you.
Emotional trauma.
So many people have come to me saying like, I hate your character so much. I'm like, I mean, I'm an anarchist, like, kind of by principle. I hate the militaristic positions of authority, but over the course of doing this show, like, I'm really glad that the captain got the ending that they did, because, I mean, no one really got a happy ending with this show, per se. They all died of old age in the middle of the black, the void, but, I feel really good about where the captain ended up. Not, you know, they were never planning on being a total dictator. They were just trying to be a good leader and doing what they could in a horrible, horrible situation. And they committed to that for the rest of their life. They stayed the best leader that they could and died being the best leader that they could. And as many bad decisions that they made, I really respect that commitment that they had.
I feel a little bad. Okay, I'm not gonna lie. When I rolled the 99, I said, so that's how it's gonna be. All right, fate. All right, dice gods. Okay, I'm here for it. Bring it on. Bring it on. Part of me really wonders and worries that 99 has set the tone for how everything is gonna go. We're gonna leave more things and up to chance, up to rolls of the die, letting people essentially, kind of again like a tabletop role-playing game, do things to influence those rolls, but there are just some stuff in life and in our universe that none of us can control, which is the fun of interactive storytelling. The fact that as the writers, we have no idea what's gonna happen. We don't know where it's gonna end.
That's one of the reasons it's exciting.
That's why it's also terrifying, because everyone's like, how's it going? I'm like, I don't know. We'll find out at the end, I guess. And so I think that the precedence has been set. The dice gods have shown their hands regarding this project, and I look forward to things continually crashing and burning as badly as that did. I look forward to it.
I wish he would have survived, honestly, because I grew so attached to him.
Uh-huh.
But I that given the circumstances that were held up, I think it was still, even though he had to deal with waste management for a lot of his years, I think that he was able to find happiness in his years on the Ark because he found someone, he found a family, he was able to keep himself occupied, and since 90% of the people who survived or were unlucky enough to not receive the juice, they were also engineers, and so he really was able to bond with them and just create a family and mostly forget about the fact that he was going to be living on a ship the size of Manhattan for the rest of his life. I'm not sure if I could do that as well, but I admire him for making those decisions, even if I wanted him to survive.
I didn't listen to the episodes. I have no idea how the end product actually turned out, and I'm sure that it was amazing, that the editing and writing process was beautiful. I'm sorry that I'm just not gonna listen to it. But
I think some of my favorite moments were just right at the beginning when he is just fumbling over everything. It was just a lot of fun to play.
My favorite thing would have been in episode 8, where it was just the final message from Anna. It was a neat task to be able to try and sound human, which is such a...
As a human?
As a human, I need to try and sound human, but not too human. Try and convey the emotion of loss for those who died because of this tragedy.
Okay, Lashara Hernandez is the coolest. I just love how she just gets crap done and no one ever notices. She's just in the background. That's all I have to say.
So what Christine just threw out was one of her favorite edits to the script was, I think in a version I wrote in, where I think it's SABERHAGEN, where she says, "Oh, Lashara, you're killing it." And then Riley went in for the next draft. I'm pretty sure it was Riley. And then said, "Lashara, you're silently killing it." And I looked at it, I'm like, "Oh, they right though." She's never made an appearance. But then the random number generator just picked her.
Yeah.
So we could throw Lashara around somewhere. I think we make it a rule that Lashara never speaks. She's just getting crap done. She's too busy to talk to all y'all.
You hear footsteps. Hey, Lashara.
So it's like, hey, what's up?
And then you hear footsteps.
Yes, yes. If there's ever unidentified footsteps in the background, you're like, who's walking through here?
It's
and we have
Lashara.
canonized, like, oh, she's been woken up by now. It's Lashara. Official. No matter how many hundreds of years we are in the future, they just keep putting her back under just to wake up by whatever event we're following.
I really loved episode 5, the whole meeting between Captain AEOMIN and Elwood and Worthing and SABERHAGEN. I was really sad I couldn't do it in person with the people. That would have been so fun because I love all of them. Yeah, but it was really fun to get a little more interactive with other characters and to feel a little more like I was really talking to other people instead of just lecturing away at everyone. Yeah, I loved that episode.
because I knew that Olivia was recording those lines, and I love Olivia, and just everything that Olivia does with her voice is so lovely. And so keeping in mind what Olivia was doing in those scenes, even though we couldn't hear each other, and trying to keep that chemistry, even though we were miles apart, it was still so much fun navigating those situations, those dangerous conversations. Those were some really fun scenes.
Two of my favorite moments to write, favorite moments in the writing process, was, I think it was episode 4, when everything goes awry, when we really amped up the tension. I really liked that. And then I also liked episode 8, because I'd been with these characters for a while, and just stopping and thinking about what their lives might look like long term was really enjoyable for me. So, and sad.
And sad is right. I have to say, I think episode 8 was by far my favorite. I got to indulge a little bit in the romanticist in me. And we had been sitting on the hymn to Hypatia, those words, for a while. for about 4 episodes is when that first happened. It started as a secret project between me and the composer, and I said, we have to round this out. And it was about the time we had episode 4 when I said, okay, the excrement's hitting the oscillating ceiling blade, folks. And it would have been very, very easy to let everything just descend into just desperation and chaos, and wow, everything sucks and then you die. And while those elements are still there, we made the decision in episode 4 of, can we find the hope in this? If people were idealistic enough and inspired enough to try to take to the stars, to get frozen for 100 years and fly across space to further than anyone else has ever been before, then can that idealism still survive? And to be able to, I think we did a pretty okay job about that.
And I think it's a theme that really resonates in real life now, but it seems like so many conversations in my life right now funnel into the end of the world. And I was like, okay, well, why continue? And that's like part of why I think the hopeful message resonates with me, at least.
That's why, yeah, it was important that we ended on that note. That after we got Olivia's crushing performance, that we could bring it somewhere out too, but the mission goes on. But the years will continue to pass, and we can make something out of this. Because that's, I think, the message that we have with this whole project at the end of the day. Yeah, it's a mess out there. But if we lose that dream that we all had in the first place, if we lose sight of that goal that we all embarked upon at the very beginning of our nation, of civilization, whatever you want to call it, then things will collapse. And if we don't make that decision to hang on to something, whatever it is, that's when stuff actually will fall apart permanently. So keep on fighting, folks.
Now that Shattered Sleep is done, I'm moving out of Utah, which is very exciting. I'm kind of sad to leave, but I'll be moving up to kind of the Seattle area to keep voice acting and theater, film, whatever comes. As for with Celestial Horizons, you may or may not hear a familiar voice in season 2. I don't know. We'll see.
Next for me is currently Infinite Silence, as well as I will be reprising Anna in Infinite Silence. So for everybody who's Anna diehard fans, and then I will be in Dissonant Echoes. I will be in that as well. And always auditioning for things, so.
So I am in a show with a local theater. It's a musical called The Drowsy Chaperone. So we've been rehearsing since July. We open in mid-September, so there's that. It's a fun show. It'll be a good show.
I am currently working at the Durant Road Musical Theater in Raleigh, North Carolina, which is actually my family's children's theater, and also involved in another podcast called The Time Travelers Radio Show, which I am helping to market as well. Apple Podcasts, Spotify.
I've just ended a fairly ambitious project, something that I cared a whole lot about that has kind of consumed my life for the last couple of years, and just ended this project. And I'm planning on kind of moving somewhere new and starting a fresh slate. I've been where I am for a very long time, and I think that it's time to figure out who I am in a new situation. Still planning on acting, voice acting, writing probably.
If I had a chance to go on the Arc Light Revea, I would not do it. I like the idea of the adventure and finding a new place, but I'm really, really scared of space. Space movies make me cry consistently. Even when nothing's happening in them, I get freaked out. Well, yeah, no, I couldn't do it. I admire the people that would, but I would not be one of them.
Specifically Arc Light Revea, probably not. Different arc, I'm sure, because those sound boring. Because we haven't heard anything from them, and their missions must have gone great. So, that's my 2 cents on that. But if the arc Lyravea is the only arc, then I will probably say it'd be interesting. Why not? We're all looking for adventure.
I'm not sure if I would. I don't have that same sort of sense of adventure that these wonderful characters have. I probably would. I'm a very cautious person. From my own cautious nature, where I am right now, I probably wouldn't, and then probably live to regret it.
I probably would if, like, my family could come with me, you know?
Yeah.
Like, it'd be really hard for me to leave my loved ones and know that, like, I mean, that there's a chance I could see them again, but also, I don't know, these missions are kind of risky, as we've learned, you know? So, yeah.
Gosh, I think I'd want to say yes, that I would, just because it would be exciting, you know, and it would be exciting to be a part of history like that, and to, you know, go to a bold new frontier like that and be part of that group. You know, my life is your pretty typical 9 to 5. Like, it'd be exciting to leave that behind and pursue something else. So I'd like to say yes. On the other hand, though, knowing myself, I would be loath. Like, you know, I would miss, like, my friends, like, knowing that I was gonna go to sleep and 100 years would pass, and, like, all my friends and family who I was close to would, like, be gone when I woke up, and I was just, like, putting myself basically into a new world. You know, that would be a sacrifice. I don't know. I guess it would really, yeah, it'd depend on the reward, but we'll say leaning like 50% either way.
I remember growing up and thinking nothing would be cooler than being able to get on a spaceship and go somewhere far away and see something that had never been seen before, and be somewhere no one had ever been. I always mourn that I'm probably never going to get to actually go into space. And there's not exactly any wild frontiers left on Earth that need exploring and discovering. At this point in life, I think I'd say yeah. I think I'd go. No stipulations. Call it a thrill of adventure and trying to appease the inner 8-year-old in me that wanted to actually go up into space.
But, like, there's things you'd miss. Like, the hum of cicadas. Like,
I would not miss
walking in the rain.
Bugs? No bugs in the spaceship. But rain, If they had a holodeck or something like that,
I love cicadas.
I'd be set. You're a weirdo.
I don't think that I would. I think that there's, you know, humanity is always pushing the next frontier and trying to explore the next big thing, make the next big scientific discovery. Like, we are explorers by nature. But for me, there's still so much of this world that I personally haven't explored, haven't experienced. And while odds are I'm not going to find anything new, completely revolutionary that no one else has ever seen, but if everyone tried to do that, everyone would end up dying pretty disappointed. And so I think that as important as it is to keep learning, keep moving, I think it's also important to be happy with where we are and work on improving what we have. Appreciating the beauty of where we are is wildly underrated when it comes to these stories of exploration and the new unknown. So, yeah.
I love that